Hi, my name is Chris Haas, and I'm a professor in the Department of Applied Physiology and Kinesiology at the University of Florida, and I'm new fellow number 592. I'm thankful for the opportunity to talk to you today about some of our work and some of the important work that the NAAK is doing in respect to social justice. In my laboratory, we focus on how the brain, particularly these areas of the brain, work in concert with a musculoskeletal system to produce effective and efficient movements. Particular emphasis on our work over the years has focused on gait and balance impairments, particularly those with patients with movement disorders. The main goals of the work in our lab has been to uncover the underlying neurobiology of postural instability and gait dysfunction. And so we may learn from these experiments so that we may better optimize rehabilitation for enhancing mobility function, reducing mobility disability, improving balance control, and improving quality of life. Now, throughout my career, will be focused on optimizing lower extremity motion, whether it be from an orthopedic lens, looking at ACL injuries or return from ACL injuries, to the more recent work over the last 20 years, looking at optimizing function in individuals with Parkinson's disease. So in our Parkinson's disease space, we really kind of focused on how is PD different? So what are the underlying mechanisms and underlying neurotechnologies that we can use to better understand how PD is different from a biological perspective. And then from experiments in the laboratory, both in the clinic, as well as in the biomechanics laboratory, how do our PD patients perform differently? How do those with Parkinson's disease perform differently than age-matched controls or other populations? So from that understanding, then we hoped to build targeted interventions to optimize performance. We've spent, as I said, many a year working on these areas, and really thankful for the contributions that we've made to the field and the impact that we've had on the field. And so this is a new fellow talk. I would like to take a second to really thank mentors who've inspired me along the way or guided me along the way, whether it's from Jeff Bauer, who was my first PhD advisor, and John and Mark, who got me into orthopedic biomechanics, and then the switch to kind of neuromechanics with Bob Greger, Steve Wolf, Jay Alberts, and Michael Oken. These individuals really took a young, hardworking, and motivated graduate student and turned me into a competent scientist and a competent citizen in the field. And so I really have had a fortunate training experience to train under these individuals. But as you can see, it's not a very diverse group. So it's been an important part of my journey in the academy is to surround myself with others who have similar values and who may tackle similar problems, but may tackle them from different perspectives. So really, as I think about those that have impacted my career and those who have allowed me to interact and impart knowledge and guidance on my students that have led to the opportunity to be an NAAK fellow, I really have a large mentoring team and a large group of peer accountability partners who've inspired me and who keep me moving in the right direction. I also want to acknowledge the students along the way. Really, all the work that we do in science is really accomplished through hard work and teamwork, right? And so any accomplishments that come to one person are really the result of a large body of work from a large body of people. And I've been incredibly blessed to have the opportunity to impact those with Parkinson's disease and other populations through the efforts of these wonderful people shown before you on the screen. So we were asked to really kind of think about these talks within the lens of the NAAK theme for this conference, which is our social justice imperative. And so many of us do work that's directly related in the research laboratory that attacks inequities, whether it be health inequities, health disparities, tackling specific scientific questions that are germane to the social justice movements and ideals. Many of us do not, right? But one of the important things is that for all of us, we're stewards of this discipline, and we're all part of something that's much larger than ourselves. We kind of have an obligation to pass it on. And so while many people might not have the opportunity to tackle diversity related issues in their science, right? Their bench science might not have a diversity of work associated with it, but we all have the ability to do important diversity and inclusivity work as we manage our lab and as we interact within the scientific communities that we have the opportunity to be a part of. So as I encourage you to step into this space and to tackle the problems and the systemic issues that we have, and I really encourage you to champion the social justice imperative. And I know that can be difficult and challenging to take that first step, but I encourage you to think of this as just a process of breaking a habit. So really, anytime that we have a habit that we don't want to address, there's a series of steps that we do that will allow us to overcome that habit. And these same series of steps will allow us to step effectively into the space and the social justice imperative. So here are some of the steps, right? We need motivation. We need to be motivated to eliminate the bad habit. We need to be motivated to eliminate the inequities that we find in our scientific communities. We need awareness, right? We need to be aware of our own vulnerability to biases, our own contributions to inequities. We need to be able to execute strategies. We need to learn strategies. We need to step into the space as learners, be vulnerable as learners, and learn the strategies that can effectively increase inclusive behaviors that lead to inclusive excellence. And most importantly, we need to be willing to put in the effort and the time to do this. This is not something that can be done as a hobby. We're not going to make changes or tackle the problems of inequity and lack of inclusion in the scientific community by doing this as a hobby. This needs to be something that we ingrain into our daily actions. And so it's going to take effort, and you need to be able and prepared to do so. So what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes just talking about maybe some of the life lessons that I've learned in this space, and perhaps give some initial advice on how to step in this space and to be effective. And so really, these are kind of life lessons from this middle-aged overachiever. And I want to also recognize that as I share these experiences or share some of these ideas, they're really ideas that come from a privileged position in the scientific community as a white male who's been trained at premier institutions and who has had the complete joy and opportunity and privilege to be at some top institutions as an academician. I realized that my experiences and some of these ideas might be different or might land differently based on individuals' other experiences. And so I acknowledge where I stand in this space. So my first bit of advice as you step into kind of this idea work, inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access work, you might also hear it rephrased as JEDI, justice, equity, inclusivity, and diversity work, is that you have to be a leader, right? You want to step into this space to be a leader. I want to remind you that it doesn't take an official title to be a leader. You don't have to be a department chair, a dean, the president of a society to be a leader. So as you're sitting here contemplating this slide, I want you to kind of write down a number of characteristics that it takes to be a good leader. And as you're doing that, as you can imagine, if there was 20 people watching this, we might come up with 40 to 50 terms that it means that describes a good leader, right? And really, those 20 terms, we listed all those terms out, and we said, okay, can I be this all the time, right? So a leader is, and you use those 50 terms or 20 terms, whatever we come up with as a group, it would almost be an insurmountable task because we cannot be all those things all the time, right? So the ideals that we aspire to be a leader, the terms we use to define a leader are just not something that somebody can be at all times. You cannot be all those words. You cannot be all those words at all the time. And so we can't really do it even most of the time. And so when you look at that list of words to describe a leader, sometimes we find it hard to even see ourselves in that list. And that prevents us from stepping forward to take on real leadership positions or real leadership roles. And as we think about, if we look at all those terms, the reality is we're describing a superhero. We're not describing a real person. So I really encourage us to take on a different lens of what it means to be a leader. And if you take on a different lens, it's going to allow you to act effectively in this social justice space. All it takes to be a leader is to have an extraordinary commitment to something. Fellows of the NAK are leaders in their scientific disciplines because they had an extraordinary commitment to doing the science and scholarship and impacting the communities around them that led to that success and that recognition. That same extraordinary commitment will allow us to be a leader in our discipline, the discipline of kinesiology. It allows us to be a leader in inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. Another thing I want us to think about is it isn't this tweet reminded me of some important concepts. So it doesn't matter, it says it doesn't matter what happens between the starting line and the finish line of a race. It just matters that you cross both. And I think there's some important lessons there. And one of the lessons involves crossing the finish line. And so in the academy, there is an arrival fallacy where we think that once we achieve something, we're going to be happy and we're going to be successful. And so if you look at research that's been done where they interviewed pre-tenured faculty predicted that they would be incredibly happier once they get post-tenure. But when you give the same survey to post-tenured faculty, the level of happiness is exactly the same. So we really need to stop thinking about these destinations as something that's going to make us happy. Once we become full professor, we'll be happy and we can tackle these important issues of social justice. What you'll find, and what the literature tells us, is once we reach those milestones, we're no different than we were before. So we don't need to wait until we get to these levels of achievement before we tackle important problems. The number one predictor of happiness is the quality of time that we spend with people we care about and who care about us. In other words, relationships. We can have relationships from day one. So I encourage you to start this journey as soon as you can. A lot of advice, and I've had the privilege of having a large number of underrepresented scholars in my research laboratory. And a lot of the advice that I heard them receive over the years has been fake it till you make it. I really find that to be horrible advice. We don't fake it until we make it. We work until we make it, right? We get up, we get knocked down, we get back up. If you want to be successful in the social justice realm, then we're going to have to do work, and it's going to be hard, and we're going to get knocked down, and we're going to have to get back up. There's beauty in effort. There's beauty in hard work. We should be able to be comfortable stepping into that space. There's a reason to fake it. Do the hard work, and we're guaranteed to make it. My other advice as we step into this space is to build your own wings on the way down. Jump off the ledge. You have the ability inside of you to make a difference in the scientific communities with which we interact. You have the ability to figure things out. You have the ability to do hard things. If you wait until you're an expert, we would have lost a generation of scholars and scientists. Step off the ledge, step into this space, and be confident that you can solve the difficulties and you can accept the challenges and face the challenges and build your wings on the way down. My other advice is to surround yourself with people that hold your core values but bring different perspectives. If we continually talk to the people that look like us and interact with the people that look like us, then we're never going to grow as individuals, and we're never going to change the inequities that are found in the STEM disciplines. It's very easy right now to identify groups to participate with. There's lots of opportunities to support underrepresented groups and to elevate their voices in the scientific community. And I encourage you to surround yourself with those groups and be an important ally, accomplice, and advocate. As you step into this space, it's important for you to realize that we is more important than me. It's not about you. It's about the groups that you're trying to serve, and it's about the groups and the systems that you're trying to interact with. The systems are strong. The systems have historical value. The systems are grounded, and it's going to take a we to tackle those systems. It's going to take a we to elevate individuals and underrepresented groups in our disciplines, then it should never be about you. If it's about you, it'll be a very hollow experience. I encourage you to incorporate this work into the mission of your laboratory, into the mission of your scholarly activities. In JFK's famous moon speech, he was touring NASA and he asked an individual who was sweeping the floors what their job was. And the individual responded, "I'm putting a man on the moon." That guy got it. That janitor got the vision of the work that he was doing. So I encourage you to interact with your students and trainees so that they understand the vision of the scientific community that we want in kinesiology. And when everybody understands and the group understands that vision and that mission, it'll be much more easy and much more likely to work together to make the progress that we feel like we need to make. You will fail a lot in this space, okay? You cannot be all things to all people, and you cannot tackle every problem with the same strategies that you tackled previous problems. It's an ever-changing space, and the powers that are in play will be changing their strategies to maintain the status quo. So don't be fretful. Just realize that lack of success occurs only if you didn't learn from it. So every opportunity to step in this space, every challenge that you see, every setback that you receive is just an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to zig when the system may zag. I encourage you all to say yes more. Oftentimes in the academy, we're told to say no, but saying yes opens yourself up to new experiences that fundamentally change your ways of thinking and doing. When you enter something saying yes, you're entering into it with a positivity and an opportunity to expand your horizons and to interact with people and fields and ideas that are unaccustomed to you, which will allow you to grow, which will allow you to add those opportunities and add those experiences into your toolbox, which will allow you to be a more effective leader and scholar. Lastly, in this space, it's hard work. The scholarly work that we do is difficult, and the work that we're going to do as a field in kinesiology with respect to inclusion, diversity, access, and equity is hard work. And you're going to need time, you're going to need to build in time to refresh. Remember, work-life balance is a choice. So please choose self-care and mental health. I want to leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou. Simply do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Best wishes for a great conference and best wishes for effective work in the social justice space. Thank you.